Product management seems to be the hot topic right now. So I thought it'd be good to talk about product management frameworks and what I've seen. I've seen some familiar trends here. Frameworks seem to get a lot of hate in product management development discourse groups, whether it's Agile or Scrum or SAFe or SWOT or whatever. These structured frameworks or methodologies often bear the brunt of blame when projects go off the rails. But is it really the framework's fault, or is there something else going on? I think you know my answer. Frameworks are ubiquitous in the tech world, right? Everyone alive has used some form of Agile at some point in their career, even if they don't realize that they have. Most of us have a file folder somewhere full of charts and diagrams and decision making paradigms. However, despite the widespread depictions and diagrams and adoption, most attempts to use a given framework seem to fail. Over time, the failures pile up and it becomes fashionable, even cliche, to bash anyone who would suggest using a new framework. However, in my opinion, these failures are often not because of the framework themselves, but due to how they've been applied. Go figure. So let's explore together. Let's explore why frameworks often get misused, misunderstood, why they get blamed. How can teams use them effectively while understanding their limitations? And how do you best approach using any of those frameworks? I think it's a great question. Product management frameworks often receive the backlash because they don't meet expectations or deliver on their promises, or at worst, they make things worse than what they were for the team. But the real problem usually lies in how they're being applied. Teams sometimes adopt frameworks like jobs to be done or Agile rigidly without adapting them to their specific needs and circumstances. I remember coaching in an organization that at one point said, hey, we're going to use SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework for enterprises. It was applied to every facet of the organization, regardless of whether it was intended for or a given area of that organization, or even if it wasn't. In some ways, this actually made a little bit of sense because at a certain level, you could see some sort of consistency within the organization. And it made things, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, easier to manage. However, SAFe ultimately became unwieldy and overwrought, making everyone frustrated and angry. It was eventually scrapped, and we moved on to the next homegrown framework that we had internally. I'm smiling right now because this is such a common thing. I see it all the time. And then you have to ask yourself, was it SAFe's fault? Was it the organization's fault? What happened? And what I can tell you is the more prescriptive you try to be, the less likely you are to have success. I'm going to say that again. The more prescriptive you are your framework, the less likely you're going to be to have success. When you misapply something, when you're trying to misapply a framework, that's going to lead to frustration. It's going to give more constraints than flexible tools, and organizations are going to hate you for even introducing it. You need to come out on top, and you need to remember that frameworks are just tools. They're not panaceas. They're not the end game, right? When all you have is a hammer, it makes everything in your life look like a nail. So frameworks provide structure. They provide infrastructure. They provide, I hate to say it, a framework. Go figure. And I think teams look to a framework to fix all their deep-rooted problems like poor communication, lack of solid leadership. And that leads to more frustration because the framework amplifies the problems so that people can see the problems exist so that you can correct it. So what I'm saying is, instead of adopting a framework to solve the problems, you adopt a framework to amplify the problems so you can solve the problems. Boy, that makes sense, right? It's almost as if you had something that you could apply over your house, like a sheet that you could pull over your entire house, or an x-ray machine you could take a picture of your house with, and it would tell you every internal problem, small or large, so that you could get those things fixed before they became unreasonably expensive. Many people get body scans to find out what's going on with their life, even if nothing's wrong, so they can see, what their potential is for certain things and how they can live more preventatively. It's just interesting. When you do that, it's a different approach, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. So a lot of organizations have tried Agile at some point, and for some, it works really well. For others, it doesn't work at all. And in my experience, what makes the difference is how well it is being consistently applied and whether the principles are adhered to and not just the details applied to the teams at the very end. If you do misalignment or make it incredibly rigid, you're going to have more frustration and reinforce the misconception that frameworks are the blame. If you, for example, adopted Scrum to fix issues with ideation or discovery in your agile process, you've just missed the mark completely because Scrum's primary focus is on delivery. And I think that sometimes people don't realize that if you're trying to fix a problem with leadership alignment or ideation, Scrum isn't the answer because Scrum focuses on the other piece of the needs. You need to understand where the needs lie and how the framework aligns to the needs. And you also need to understand that statement I said a few minutes ago. The framework doesn't exist to solve the problem. The framework exists to amplify the problem so that you know which problems are ready to solve next. So you need to tailor that framework to your organization's needs. To have success, you need to understand with maturity and discipline where you are, what your real struggles are, and achieve leadership buy-in, achieve cross-departmental collaboration. Even if everybody doesn't adopt every piece of a framework, it's okay. Organizations can work on a framework and take it step by step. Use the 12-step program. Figure out which pieces you can actually apply. Because in the long run, frameworks are useful for improving whatever they're designed to do, but it won't solve issues related to how we allocate our teams, strategy, ideation, leadership issues. Those kinds of things will not get fixed by simply adjusting a framework. You need to build a toolkit. No single framework is going to solve every product management challenge. You've seen that Agile roadmap that I used, the Agile landscape, and it shows all the different things, and it looks like a complicated subway map. There's so many frameworks out there that you need to understand the context in which they're being applied, and you need to understand how to use the framework's flexibility to increase your chances of being successful. Sometimes product management frameworks offer invaluable structure if you're off the rails, but structure isn't a solution to every problem. I've seen transformations fail because frameworks are misapplied or over relied upon as a catch all solution. Teams that use and treat frameworks as tools rather than solutions are the ones that are most likely to succeed. The key to understanding the strengths and limitations of each framework is in how you use them appropriately. So I think that what you should be focused on thoughtfully is understanding how to apply these frameworks, but not in a rigid sense. Take the better parts and apply those first. Let the teams and organizations see success, and then dabble into the other pieces until you align with your goals for your organization, and then stop right there. Don't try to put the rest in if you don't need to. Do the pieces that are most critical, get to the lead that you need, and then once you're pointed that ship in the right direction, sail like you've never sailed before. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.